All right, now this is document number 3, and this is a collection of maps from the 13 colonies. The unfortunate thing about using DBQ number 3 here on the screencast is that we can't look at all 4 maps at the same time, really, which will create a few difficulties because they really do have to be looked at kind of in collection with one another in some cases. But anyway, this is the first map, and it just shows areas where there were lots of loyalists, lots of patriots, and then these strongly contested areas were like that's a pretty good balance between loyalists and patriots. The main strongly contested area that you need to be aware of is New Jersey. That's where most of the stuff was happening. Obviously we've got some stuff here in the far west. Now this would have been the wild frontier at the time of the Revolutionary War. It would have been at the edge of what they would have referred to as Indian territory. It would have been dangerous, it would have been scary. But the main thing you need to know about this map is you need to notice where these loyalist strongholds are. And I saw a lot of people writing down things like on the coast. Well, that's not a very good answer because, frankly, everything is on the coast, right? This is where they live. They live on the coast. Very, very few people live inland at this point. The thing I really wanted you to notice with this loyalist strongholds is that they are in Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington and surrounding area, Norfolk, Philadelphia, New York, Newport, Halifax, Nova Scotia, basically every major city except Boston. Every major city in the colonies was a loyalist stronghold. In other words, they were more loyal to Great Britain and they were less likely to want to, declare independence. And then the Patriot strongholds tended to be the more rural areas. All right, let's look at this next map. Map of some of the major battles of the Revolution. All right, I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit if I can. Let's see. Yeah, there we go on this one. So one thing that I wanted to show you is where the battles are occurring. So if you look at the battles that are happening, and we kind of missed this, I think, a lot. 75, 75, 1775, 75, 1776, 76, and then 77, 77, 77, 78. All of the major battles of the Revolutionary War that happened in the early years are happening up here. It's not until the much, much later years, 81, 80, 78, 81, 80, 78, 79, that we move away from this New England states area and then North Atlantic. So that's really what I wanted you to see, is that most of the battles of the early Revolutionary War, 1775 and 76 and 77, are actually happening in these northern states. Now you'll also note a lot of the battles of the Revolutionary War took place before the colonists declared independence, right? Quebec, Concord, Lexington, Bunker Hill, Concord and Lexington and Concord, usually considered the first battles of the Revolutionary War. Princeton, Trenton, all of those happened before they declared independence. So the war was raging long before we actually declared independence. All right, now this third map, this is a population density map of the American colonies at the outset of the Revolutionary War, 1775. And the thing I wanted you to notice is that most of the people living in the colonies live up here in these North Atlantic and New England states. That's where you've got 40 plus inhabitants per square mile. In other words, these are your urban areas. 15 to 40, all right, well, that's your mid-Atlantic states, Virginia, some of Maryland, parts of southwestern Pennsylvania, parts of northeastern North Carolina, and then this area right here with Savannah and Charleston. The parts with 2 to 15 people, that's these much more rural parts, and that's really where you've got most of your patriots living. All right, and then this last map here is showing the settlement by ethnic group in 1755. So this is about 20 years before the Revolutionary War starts, but it does give us a good bit of context here. So one thing you'll notice, obviously, the predominant group would be English, right? Especially up here in the New England states, and then in the mid-Atlantic, and then along parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, especially up the Savannah River here. But in the southern states, you'll notice that large swaths of the southern states are largely African. And I asked you the question, what did they mean by that? And what they really meant, because African would be the ethnic group, what they really meant was that these were large slaveholding areas. Now that's interesting to note because Georgia, of course, banned slavery up until only a few short years before this. And then almost immediately, you've actually got as many African slaves as you do English settlers. And of course, to call it African settlement is a bit of a misleading term. They didn't exactly decide to immigrate there. Um, and then you've got Scots Irish living on the fringes here. Remember the article that we read as a warm up about the crackers? This is exactly what they're talking about. These people living kind of on the pioneer wilderness edge. Think you're kind of Davy Crockett, live off the land, hunt and fish and survive kind of folks. You've got your German population, especially here in Maryland and Pennsylvania. These are a lot of your Quakers, a lot of your Amish. And then you've got your Dutch living right up here on the Hudson River in New York. Of course, New York was originally known as New Amsterdam, which makes sense because Amsterdam is the capital of the Netherlands, and the Netherlands is where Dutch people are from. So when we put all of this together, what you notice is that when we look at this map and we look at the English people who are settling here, most of the patriots were in fact English. Most of the patriots were English.